This is the Movie Reel. We bring you a rotating panel of movie enthusiasts for some good, some bad, but always fun movie discussions. Be warned, spoilers are in effect. So grab your favorite movie snacks and sit back while we cue up the cast. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Reel, your best place for movies and entertainment. We're going to be bringing the next Austin Powers movie today. So we have Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. This movie came out in 1999. I have a quick synopsis I came up with real quick, like we'll go over. And to do all this with me before we get too far into the show is Heather back again. So just as promised, that's what we discussed.
I'm back.
So we're going to do the trilogy. We got one more to go and we're going to watch them all and talk about them. So one more thing to mention before I get too far in, and I did this last episode, I did not make a mention of it, is the Movie Reel on YouTube. If you go over there and visit our Loud Thumbs YouTube channel, which I'll have links for below in the description of the podcast, you can see we got a different setup now. So we have a background, like I'm just having a little fun with it, and it's nothing super professional, but hey, we're just chilling in a movie theater talking about movies. That's just how it works. So go over there and check it out, see if you think it's good and worth watching, and give us some feedback. I'd love feedback. We all love that here at Loud Thumbs. So we're gonna get going here. My quick synopsis I got on the movie here is Austin returns right where he left off, only to find his new wife is a robot planted by Dr. Evil. Newly single and back in the spy game, Austin has a new sexy partner, Felicity Shagwell. Dr. Evil has a time machine now, and he plans to steal Austin Powers' mojo while he's frozen in the 1960s. So the movie runs an hour and 35 minutes long, so it's a real quick watch based on today's standards, right?
Yeah. Most movies now are 2.5 to 3 hours long.
Yeah, we have a 3-hour Batman movie out, people. So it's
yeah.
This is a quick one. You go watch 2 of the Austin Powers movies in that time frame. Budget on this one here was $33 million, and it brought in $312 million. So that's 10 times its money. That's pretty good. That's doing its job. And speaking of money and just getting into a little bit of our conversation, I wanted to look, I'm a big numbers guy. So if you haven't kind of caught that in the shows, I think numbers are fascinating, and I think they just speak a lot of truth sometimes and just kind of give you a little bit more answers to stuff. So as far as money goes on this, I was curious to see what Mike Myers made for these movies. It's always kind of fun to see how they've progressed. They make more money. Does he make more money? So, the movies make more money. So obviously you assume the actors and the stars would make more money. So this sheds a pretty solid light, and I wanted to talk about it real quick at the beginning. So Mike Myers earned, and I'm going to talk a little bit before Austin Powers here. He earned $1 million for Wayne's World. So that's not bad. That was like one of his first big movies at the time. He earned $3.5 million for the sequel to Wayne's World. So he tripled his money. It showed, people like Mike Myers. I think Wayne's World really kicked him off. And we talked about that last episode. If you didn't watch our first Austin Powers one, it really put him on the map, but Austin Powers put him on the globe. And then for Austin Powers, he got another $3.5 million for the first movie. And then brace this before I keep going. Take this in mind. He's doing at minimum, he's doing 2 characters in this movie, because he's always Dr. Evil and he's always Austin Powers. And we're going to talk about more characters that he does in the sequels. So remember that he is doing multiple roles. So he $3.5 million for the first Austin Powers to do 2 roles. And he does $7 million in the second movie to play 3 roles he ends up doing. So they doubled his money and added a role, you know what I mean? So that's like working salary at your job, and they're like, you make $10 an hour, and they're like, but you're going to work 60 hours a week, but we're only going to pay you for 40. It's like, wait a minute, hold on, shit. That's kind of the way I looked at this. I found that very interesting. He ended up making $25 million for the third movie. So he ended up, breaking out from $3.5 million a character, a role or whatever you want to say there, because the first one he made 1.75 million per character, per Austin,
Yeah.
per Dr. Evil.
Yeah.
And then it was essentially the same, a little bit more. He made a little over $2 million per role for Austin Powers 2. But then in the next one, he almost made $10 million a role.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he ramped it up. And it just goes to show them. Yeah, go ahead.
Also, as the movie, I think, got more popular, like the first movie was kind of like a sleeper hit. Like everybody, he put the movie out and it was great. And then the second one came out, and I think the second one hit a little more with audiences. So then by the time the third movie came out, they knew what he was worth. They knew what the movie was going to do. So then they probably were like, let's pay him a little more.
Yeah, I think they wanted to keep him around, right? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because the first movie cost 16.5 million, which we talked about, and it made $67 million. So it quite a bit less than this one. I mean, this one did 300 and some million dollars. So it's pretty nuts.
Yeah, you can see the jump from the first movie to the second movie and how popular it was.
Yeah. And that number was wrong. I just said, sorry. It was a budget of 112 million. And I think the numbers are all kinds of skewed on the internet for the original Austin Powers movie, to be honest with you, because there's no way in hell the first movie cost $112 million to make. There's no way. So I don't know if one of these numbers is based off of inflation or not. I'm thinking that it is a combination of all three of the movies, if I have to say so. So that was a correction I needed to make from the first episode of Austin Powers. It didn't make like 670 million. The whole trilogy did, but this movie is, I mean, we'll see as we go, but I think this one was probably one of the biggest bank movies for him. Well, for the whole franchise.
Yeah.
So getting into the movie a little bit, and we got some fun facts to go over as well. I want to bring more facts to the movie reel and just talk a little bit more about what's happened in the background, something that could have happened, and so on and so forth, because I think that's just really interesting to talk about as well, as our favorite parts and everything about the movie too. So there's a bunch going on in this movie again. Like the first movie had a bunch of tiny little plot points that continued throughout the movie. This one has a bunch. Dr. Evil, we already discussed there in my synopsis, is, he is trying to steal Austin Powers' mojo, but at the same time, he's also holding the White House ransom because he's going to blow it up from his moon base, right? Yeah,
with his laser.
Laser. Yes, exactly. Air quotes, laser.
Yes, laser.
So he has a bunch going on, and he's also dealing with Scott and leaving him from the first movie. There's that whole bit going on. And then him and Frau Farbissina, they have themselves a little love, fling going on, and just a bunch of little things going on. Mini-Me shows up, we have all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot going on with Dr. Evil in this movie. You can definitely tell it's a little more focused toward him than it was the first movie. It definitely felt that way.
Yeah.
And then Austin, dealing with losing his mojo and thinking that he's not enough for his secret agent partner, and dealing with, all of this new angst. He's lost his wife who taught him monogamy and all these kinds of things. But he's in the swinger world. And then we have new characters in the movie, and Fat Bastard. He's the newest, big deal. He's hilarious. He is a family favorite, that is for sure. Kids aren't allowed to say his name, so they just call him the fat guy. But yeah, he's a family favorite, doing his accent, oh, I got a crop, that it's always getting a good laugh. And then Mini-Me also introduced into this movie, and I think Mini-Me took off for the world, because everybody says that now, when they have a kid, we talk about our children, they're your Mini-Me, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a thing before Austin Powers.
I don't think it was either. I don't think so. No.
It felt like it really something clicked with everybody, and they're like, oh yeah, that's the simplest way to put it. And it was like, it's funny to look back and think about that, because I never remember anything Mini-Me, mini anything until this movie. There was mini Snickers and stuff maybe, but
yeah, little mini candy bars, but no Mini-Me terminology.
Right. Yeah. So a question I have for you, Heather, is Who out of this movie is the best addition to the Austin Powers, to the world overall? Is it Mini-Me or is it Fat Bastard?
That is so hard.
You gotta answer it though.
I would have to say Mini-Me,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
Mini-Me, he is in more than just the second movie. So if you want to think of like the character that adds most to the trilogy, I would have to say that Mini-Me.
That bastard comes back in the third one. He's not as big of a point, but he's in it.
I mean, yeah, he's in it, but he's not like Mini-Me is in it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So it would have to be Mini-Me, because Mini-Me is like, he's just another offshoot of Dr. Evil. And the banter that Mini-Me has with Scott and like that whole family dynamic is great. It's probably, that's my favorite.
Mini-Me's your favorite. Okay.
Yeah, Mini-Me.
I thought about this one. I'm obviously the one that came up with the question, so I thought about it too.
Right. Yes.
But it is a hard question, which is why I wanted to ask it, because I was curious.
Yeah.
My logic behind it is that I think without Mini-Me, I think Dr. Evil's character didn't move any further forward. Like his character was kind of stuck. But they bring Mini-Me in, and he loves Mini-Me. It's like his boy. He's like, my precious boy. He's just he's my special boy. Take care of him. Boy. He's just in love with this little guy, and then obviously the world falls in love with him too. But I think it added dimension to Dr. Evil's character. As silly as that sounds for just a kooky comedy movie, I think it fully added a lot of dimension to Dr. Evil overall. With him being in the comedy, the jokes were, oh my God, they're endless, in this. I mean, there's so much material they could pull from, with it being, him being this 1/8 your size, and, all the jokes that come from that are just fantastic. And Fat Bastard, hilarious. I mean, really, really great. But he didn't really add anything to anybody. Like, he was there as like as a plot character, as to how to steal Austin's mojo without Dr. Evil doing it. But he didn't really do anything other than add comic relief in a way.
Yeah. And he was kind of like another bad guy of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like the second henchman, like right behind Dr. Evil or something. But yeah, he didn't add anything to the movie for me. And I think I was just trying to think of like a broader reason, because Mini-Me took off everywhere. Like, and we still say, our children are our Mini-Me's now. Nobody, says anything about Fat Bastard anymore. It's just, he was in these movies. And honestly, like, I forgot that character was in these movies until it was like, oh yeah, that's right. The bagpipe starts to play there at the one point. And I'm like, oh my Lord, I totally spaced that Fat Bastard made his appearance in this one. And Mini-Me, you just can't forget him.
Nope. And one thing with Mini-Me, he is the relationship that Dr. Evil wanted with Scott. Like, he's Dr. Evil's son now. Like, that's the kind of relationship he wanted with his son, why he had a child created. And Scott didn't turn out like he wanted. So now he has Mini-Me, and it's just all uphill from there for him.
Yeah, because I mean, if Dr. Evil loves anybody, he loves himself, right? So why not a tiny version of himself? Yeah, and the fact that Mini-Me doesn't talk is fantastic. Like, he's completely mute. So it's like that adds to it even more, because it allows Dr. Evil to have even more dialogue and hilarious moments that can be backed up with just a little smug attitude that Mini-Me can have sometimes, or, the trying to eat the kitty, or, trying to bite number 2 and all those things. So I would agree with Mini-Me for that reason. I really enjoy his character because of what he does for Dr. Evil. Like, Dr. Evil's, he is hilarious. Oh my God, he is so good. And he's I think probably the funniest character in this whole entire movie. Like, he takes the cake from Austin in this one, and no doubt. You could tell they focused
100%.
on Dr. Evil. Now, my next question, and then we'll get into some of our favorite scenes and talking about it, is we have, in the first movie, we had Elizabeth Hurley playing the love interest. Now, this movie, we have Heather Graham playing the love interest. So out of those two and the performances that they put on, like, if you chose one over the other, who would you choose and why?
I would choose Heather Graham.
Okay. I mean, she's smoking hot. Like, she's so much hotter.
Agreed. Um, she is basically the female version of Austin.
Very
Like,
true.
yeah. I just feel like she is a better match in the movies, like her character, than Vanessa. Like, if Austin had met Heather Graham's character Felicity in the first movie, I think he would have married her and not Vanessa.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would have to say Heather Graham.
I would say so too, for a couple of reasons. I think that you kind of said it, like her vibe fits the world better. Like it was
Yes.
like it was almost like Vanessa was like the mom to Austin in the first one when you compare the two. Like she was
Right.
just kind of like teaching him the ways of, like, the world and going through these things, and like smacking his hand like, no, you don't do that, like
Yeah.
you don't go have sex with hundreds of women with no protection and all these things.
You can't do that.
So you just can't. Now, the other aspect was she was from the 90s, and Heather Graham's character, Felicity, is from the 60s, right? So they
Yeah.
match up. She is definitely Austin in female form, because they're the same. She got all of her inspiration from Austin growing up, so she wanted to be a spy. And I just think, though, outside of just that point of her character being written differently and being from a different era, I think that Heather Graham embodies this style of character better and acted and just played the role so much better. Like,
Oh
I
yes.
think she fit in that aspect of where it was super, goofy and I mean, she had all of her sexual puns, like, Felicity Shagwell, by day, shag very well by reputation, that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Right.
So
Yeah.
she was very much Austin, and she had all that, but the way she delivered her lines and how it all was, I think, so much better than Elizabeth Hurley. I kind of felt like when you watch them back to back, like we've done, you see the dryness in Elizabeth Hurley's character.
Yes.
Like, you don't really feel like she does love Austin. Like, you,
Right.
as you compare them, right?
Yeah. Watching the first one, you're like, and then watching the second one, and you see how much, Felicity is into Austin. And then you look back at Vanessa and you're like, yeah, she just didn't give two craps. Like, you just kind of feel like that. And then again, I agree, the dryness, from Elizabeth Hurley, like, which I don't know, maybe it's because she's a British actress, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of dryness there, where Heather Graham is an American actress, but I do feel like Heather Graham took the role and really ran with it. Like,
Yeah.
she was Felicity.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like, the second movie just ramped everything up better. I think they found better chemistry with everybody. I think the comedy was better. I mean, the actors, I mean, I think
Yeah.
everything was better in the second movie, which goes to show not only the fact that the first movie was popular and had a lot of, backing behind it. It had, like, people interested that wanted to do a good job in the movie. Like, I mean, the first movie was
Yeah.
improv a lot and all that kind of stuff, but it made a lot of money. And then a lot of people went, wait a minute, like, this could be like a really fun thing to do. And I want to get in there and do it. And then when they did, they weren't taking it like super lightly. They were like, let's just make this really fun. Let's work together and, have good chemistry and find the
Yeah.
best people for the roles, instead of just like kind of a quick thing. Like, felt like the first one was kind of quickly put together in a way.
Yeah, like, it was a lot of improv, like you said, and it wasn't necessarily as seamless or as cohesive as the second one. But the second one is like, they took it a little more seriously. They had better actors and actresses who were more into the roles, and it, excuse me, was more cohesive.
Yes.
And I think it just turned out a better product.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so before we get into some of our fun facts, we're gonna talk about some of the movie here, and then we'll go through some fun stuff. So, favorite character I've already ruined. I've already spoiled that. Mine is definitely Dr. Evil. Like, definitely Dr. Evil, favorite character in the second movie. He has so many funny scenes, man. Like, there's so many to think of, like making number 2 cry with the big giant ball globe. That's hilarious. He's just like the bully on the playground in that scene. It's hilarious.
Yep.
You're gonna squirt some? You're gonna cry? You're gonna cry? Smacking him with the ball in the face. It's just, That's great. And then he shoots the basket in, the ball after the fact, and then
Yeah,
it
and he's
makes
like,
the
yeah.
basket. He's like pumping his fists after he does it. And it's just like he shot it from like 5 feet away, so it's not even a big deal. It's just like that is amazing. The big one that's a big family favorite that my daughter absolutely loved when we watched this one together, actually, and had just kind of a dad-daughter night, and is the scene in the chair when the robotic chair kind of flips out and it's spinning in all directions. He has no control over it. And it finally stops and he's like, sick as a dog, and he's gonna vomit, That scene is still funny. And I loved it because I forgot about that scene. It has been many years since we've seen these movies. And we're like, okay, the kids are old enough. We can, make sense of all of the questions they're going to have and all that. And why not watch it with their parents? That's the kind of parents we are. We do watch stuff that's probably above our kids' age range, but not without being within the realm of understanding that we know our kids can follow.
Right.
And we want to be able to ask those questions, answer those questions, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
And I forgot completely about this scene, and we'll watch it again. I mean, I'm laughing hard because it's so funny to watch over again when you kind of forget about it. But there's too many to name for me. I could go on and on about all my favorite Dr. Evil scenes, the zippets and the shushes and, that,
stealing mine.
The Diet Coca Evil and the Jerry Springer scene. He's biting me. He's biting me. I got your hood. I got your hood. That stuff's great. So on to you, Heather. What is your favorite character and some of your favorite scenes with them?
In this movie in particular, it would have to be Mini-Me. Like,
okay,
just his overall, he plays off very well off Dr. Evil, but like just his attitude towards Scott, like it is hilarious. Scott is trying to tell his dad, like, you're stupid, because he wants to ask for all this money and that amount of money is not even exists in 1969.
He calls him an ass over and over.
Calls him an ass over and over. And then he talks about having a Death Star and he's like, rip off. And then you just see Mini-Me is like staring him down. And then, he just Mini-Me flips him off and just always tries to push the button and, get Scott into the volcano and kill him, basically. So I would have to say Mini-Me. I feel like Mini-Me was probably my favorite in this one. A close second to Dr. Evil, because like you said in this one, Dr. Evil is just freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
And they just really took the time to develop the character and show that side of him. I do have to say one of my favorite parts for Dr. Evil is after he and Frau have their little love scene.
Yeah.
And, they're standing there pouring coffee and he's trying to make small talk because they were like, it won't get weird. And they're like, it got weird. And then, she's like, yeah. And she's like, I'll never love another man. And he's like, I know.
He's like, yes, that's true.
That's true.
Because she's into women. She's technically a lesbian. Yes. I mean, she's a lesbian the whole series, and she has sex with Dr. Evil. So
once. And then she's like,
Austin Powers Mojo. Yeah, I'm late. Yeah. And he's like, oh,
He was like, yeah,
like, no, you're all right on time.
You're on time.
Yeah, so many good scenes with him. It's fantastic. And Frau and her super long hair during that sex scene.
My gosh,
it's like,
yes.
How does she roll all that up? It's just great pieces of comedy.
She has like the biggest mullet ever.
Oh yeah, huge. And then there was a scene that we just talked about last night that in that same scene you're talking about, I had I had actually never noticed is what it was, where Dr. Evil takes his coat off and he's just got the white shirt underneath, and he actually has like a Glock in the front of his pants. I don't think I ever realized that until last night we watched it. I was like, oh, that's hilarious. Like he's dumping out like one for me, one for my homies, dumping out drinks from his 40 that he's drinking. And then he does the Glock in the pants. I'm like, that is hilarious. Like he's just a gangster, when he's not in front of all his peeps, his henchmen. He's got to be serious, and then he's just gangster fool in the background. I loved that little bit of additional comedy, just visual comedy. Like there was nothing referenced to it or anything. It was just great. Same as Frau's hair. It's like, where the hell did that come from? I love it. So some of the fun facts here that I thought were really cool. So the original script for this movie, it was actually called Austin Drinks a Zima, Not a Tab. So it was like, weird. And a Zima is a non-alcoholic beer. and a tab is just a pop, right?
Right.
So I think it was their way of referencing like time difference as well, because like tab is old, Zima's new. But I
Yeah.
also think it was a joke at how kids would drink Zima and they'd be like, "Oh, I'm so wasted, I'm
Oh
so drunk,"
yeah.
I think it was something along those lines too, because of just how silly the movie could be. It's like, well, Austin drinks a Zima, now he's a little bit drunk, like he can't handle it or something. So I thought that was kind of funny. I love the title they chose instead. And
Yes.
there's actually a little bit about that I wanted to talk about with The Spy Who Shagged Me. So and I just pulled this off of a website here that was just some fun facts, but it says as is often the case, the title for the film was changed in different countries. So with some of them being humorously much more or much less dirty than the original title. So it says, most notably, the title of the film in Singapore was briefly changed to Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shoiked Me. It says, which basically means the spy who made me feel good. Now
Okay.
that's less dirty. That's, oh, it made
Yeah,
me feel
that's
good, right?
very tame.
Yeah. And it says, while Norway's title for the film translated to Austin Powers, The Spy Who Ejaculated on Me. So that's a
Okay.
little bit more the
That's
other
a
direction.
bit the other direction.
I
Yeah.
was like, holy cow.
What the heck?
I don't know why they would have changed.
Norway.
Yeah, Norway, you naughty, naughty
You naughty
Norwegians over there.
Norway.
Woo. But I was like, holy cow. I mean, like Shagged Me, I can understand can be taken multiple different ways. But
Hmm.
it to me, it seems still it was like the most tame option
Yeah.
overall until I
Yeah.
read that. I'm like, whoa, that's way different. Okay, guys. So that was
Yeah.
that was a
Dang,
fun fact.
Norway.
Yeah. Another fun fact is there's a big Starbucks connection in this movie. Number
Hmm.
number two has bought a Starbucks, a small Seattle coffee franchise
Yep.
that they've become lucratively,
Yep.
rich from. And it's Starbucks, everybody. Go behold. They're still around now.
Yay.
And yes, Heather, that speaks your language, you and your
It
Starbucks
does.
addiction, right? So
Yep.
yeah, it was Starbucks paid nothing for being in the Spy Who Shagged Me. So that's rare. You're typically either going
Yeah.
to have to like get paid or pay to have your stuff put in some big feature film. So there must have been something in the background where they worked out a deal where it wasn't like,
You probably like catered it or something.
I feel like it was like, hey, like Starbucks was taking off. I mean, it was popular, but at this point, like Starbucks was probably getting too popular too fast. And I think
Yeah.
this was like an influx of it too. And then, a little Starbucks history is they actually downsized Starbucks. You would, if you don't believe that, I mean, go look it up. But there are less Starbucks now than there were 10 years ago because of how oversaturated the market was in Starbucks, and
Yeah.
they were killing themselves basically. But this was kind of in the beginning of all that. Like Starbucks was trying to make a name for themselves and grow, and I feel like it was just a way for them to go, hey, let's make more money. Let's just throw it in the movie for
Put this in the
free
movie. Yeah.
and see what happens. And
Yeah.
Dr. Evil does his drinking, gets his Belgian dip,
Gets
his
the
cream all over his
cream all
nose,
over
and
his nose. Oh yeah, I
yeah,
knew it was there.
I did it on purpose.
I knew it was
It's
there.
called
I did it on
it's called a
purpose.
Belgian dip.
Belgian dip.
And it is also this is another Dr. Evil fun fact. It's widely believed that Dr. Evil's based off of Lorne Michaels, which for everybody, it makes sense if you think about it. But for everybody who doesn't know who Lorne Michaels is out there listening, that is the creator of Saturday Night Live. Like he has full control of all the skits and who does what. And, he's a
Yep.
big, major dude over there. So you can see that Michael Myers, whatever. Mike Myers was on Saturday Night Live for several years. So it makes sense for him to, kind of be like, probably not in the best terms all the time with your boss. A lot of people usually aren't. And use that as a, kind of their muse to make a freaking hilarious character.
Oh yeah, and I think they did a lot of it just to make fun of him.
Oh,
like,
sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think it was a poke fun. I don't think they hate each
yeah.
other or anything like
No,
that. I think
no.
if this is true, which it totally makes sense, I would assume that Lawrence is more flattered than anything,
Oh yeah.
What was they saying? Something about it's the biggest form of flattery, right?
Oh,
Impersonation or something
yes,
like that, they say.
yes. Impersonation is the biggest form of flattery.
We already talked about one of the other fun facts was that most of the first film and part of this film was just improvised stuff, which is kind of cool. We did talk some fat bastard stuff, so we didn't talk a ton about him, but it took Mike Myers 7 hours to get into the makeup and the fat suit for that character.
Dang.
That is a
7 hours.
long time.
That
That's a
is
work
long
day
time.
for most people.
It is.
Yeah. No thanks.
It's still an amazing fact at movies in general. Like if you think, I know Guardians of the Galaxy, for instance, Gamora, like it's 10 to 13 hours plus, I believe, for her to get in her suit. Same with Nebula, like to be made into the character. So if you think about it, that's crazy. Like you spend all that time getting into makeup and then shoot for what, like 5 hours?
I
So you
would hope
spend most of the day.
longer, or they make it
I
to where
would
they can
hope so
sleep in it.
too. Yeah, it was something. But it's crazy to think that it takes that long sometimes for people to transform into these characters.
Yeah. Well, I know I've done plenty of research and everything on these movies, even before doing the movie reel, because I'm just, that's my brain, that's my movie buff side and stuff. But I know that Mike Myers kind of embodied the fat bastard character while on set as well. And they say that it was like a coping mechanism because of how terrible this suit was and, the makeup and everything. So he was in character all the time, even like when they were on breaks and everything, he's still going around like giving people shit, in the Scottish accent and just being fat bastard. So that would be kind of hard to deal with if you weren't, on his good side, I guess. Cause he's a big dick in the movie. Like, he thinks he's sexy and everything, and all that shit. The scene with him and Felicity in the bedroom, and he's like, "Oh, I'm hot," and, like, "Look at my sexy body," like, no.
Disgustingness.
Yeah, he's like covered in grease and chicken. He's like, "You want some chicken?" Like, no. She's just laying there about to throw up. So, but that would be terrible. I would hate to go through that mess of makeup and stuff. And then carry it around with you for however long you're, I can't imagine it was light, but you probably have to be able to have some sort of training to be able to not die while carrying that thing around for however many hours they work. Probably another 8 or 10 he was in the thing, I would imagine. Another fun one I did not know about at all until doing some research here recently was that Pierce Brosnan wanted to make a cameo in the movie, and he wanted Mike Myers to be Austin Powers and play a cameo in The World Is Not Enough. Like, they wanted to trade cameos.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah, I would have loved that, because this is what we talked about in the last one. I mean, this is a complete and total just noir Bond ripoff, just to see the two, full satire, just to see the two swap and just be like comrades in it all, like, we're just, that's some good camaraderie, that we're working on. And I'm like, hell yeah, that would have been great. Pierce Brosnan, I wonder what he would have played. Like, I think that what they would have done is they still would have been their characters.
That's what I think too.
Like they would have been like helping each other in a mission. Like, he would have been like a spy in the military of defense, and Austin would have been somehow working for, I'm spacing what Bonds is right now. It's
MI6.
MI6, yes. I was going to think MIA. I'm like, that's not right. So yeah, that would have been really cool. So it makes my brain swirl with like potential.
Damn it. Awesome.
Pierce
Brosnan would have been this suave Bond in this satire movie, and then you would have had like Austin, kooky, crazy spy in this suave Bond movie. That would have been freaking hilarious. I'm so sad that didn't actually happen.
Yeah. And it was all because of scheduling conflicts. They just couldn't line their scheduling up. So it wasn't like anything to do with money or studios or anything like that. It was just like,
dang it,
man, we just can't swap. Our characters or our schedules don't line up for her. That's a bummer.
That would have been amazing.
Okay, so we're going to get ready to do our what if question here. And that question is, what if Colin Quinn was Scott Evil? So if you don't know who Colin Quinn is, he's also a Saturday Night Live veteran. He did the news on the Saturday Night Live for a long time. Like it wasn't the longest, but I think it was like 2, maybe 3 seasons. And he's been just kind of small characters in other movies. Works a lot with Adam Sandler. Yep. And, he was in like, I know he was like a very small role, but he's a role I remember a lot, honestly, in the Night at the Roxbury movie. So he played like a limo driver in that one.
Mm-hmm.
bunch of ass grabbing talking scenes that really make his character kind of stand out in that movie. Well, I have to do a movie role now. That's a great movie.
Oh yeah, that is a good one.
So what if Colin Quinn was Scott Evil? And I Google him out there if you're listening, because you'll have to see what he looks like. But I'm curious. I threw a picture up for Heather on the doc, so she knows. I'm sure she doesn't remember him.
No, I remember him.
Oh, you do? Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, we've watched quite a few SNL movie, like not SNL movies, but actors and comedians who have been on SNL, you know, movies, and we used to watch SNL. So,
yeah. Well, he's just not a standout guy, so I didn't figure you'd remember him.
But I remember him.
Okay.
Like I remember him like from Night at the Roxbury, the Adam Sandler movies, because he was a jerk in one of the Adam Sandler movies, but now I can't remember which one. I think it was Billy Madison. No,
it was the first Grown Ups movie that he was a jerk.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basketball, the basketball guy.
Oh, yes, that's it. Basketball guy.
Yep.
What's up? Yeah. Okay. No, I do not think he would have been as good as a Scott Evil.
You mean as Seth Green?
Yeah. Well, Scott Evil in the movie.
Just that character in general.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Like Seth Green, like because of that teenage angst and being the appropriate age, well, pretty close. I mean, I know he's not a teenager in the movies, but I don't think that Colin Quinn would have been able to pull that off as Dr. Evil's son. Like, I just don't think it would have worked. That's just me.
Yeah, and I'm trying to look at so right now, Colin Quinn is 62 years old. So Seth Green,
he's probably in his 40s.
Seth Green is 48.
Yeah.
So looking at the two, I mean, that's a 14-year difference, right?
Yeah.
So I guess based off of this movie, it would have made more sense because the whole thing that really was that Frau was pregnant by Dr. Evil and Scott is her kid, right? That was kind of one of the movie plot points.
Yeah.
Technically, Scott being the age that Scott is in the first movie, that doesn't line up with the numbers. Like if that were a real thing, he would have been born in the early 80s, late 70s, right? Instead of being born in the 60s, which is when this movie takes place, is 69, because Scott was only supposed to be like 18, 20 years old.
Yeah, but no, it would work.
After a few years, they got impatient and made him a kid, right? So that's what they say. So numbers wise, it would have been like 67 is when they left. So if he was born in 69 and came back in 99, he would have had to have been 30, right? If we go off numbers only.
Yeah, numbers only.
If they waited 2 years old, he needed to be 30. So does Scott, does he look 30 years old in the first movie? Because he doesn't to me.
No.
He looks much younger.
Like late teens, 18, 19, maybe early 20s. That's kind of the vibe I got. I don't think that he was like underage because that was never like made mention. So I was just assuming that he was probably early 20s.
Right.
Does he drink anything in the first movie?
He doesn't drink anything. He just talks about like going to the mall with his buddies and like, you know.
Yeah. So I would say 1920.
So that's what I'm saying. Like that's the gist of it. Like the numbers don't line up for him to be that character at all. The way, which is part of the funniness. Like, I mean, it adds to the comedy.
Yes.
Colin Quinn would have lined up with the age because he would have been 14 years older. So he would have had to have played an older version of Scott, right?
Right.
I would assume
it would have, I guess.
But I agree with you. Like, because in my head, like, I love the fact that it doesn't line up and they don't give two shits about who was born, how they were born, because, you know, they made him a test tube baby. And then in the second movie, they say, no, it was actually Frau and Dr. Evil got together. So, you know, that's the deal now.
Yeah.
And they just take completely the first part of the first movie and forget about the test tube baby thing. They're like, nope, not a big deal.
Nope, not a big deal.
And they even joke about time travel in this movie, which I absolutely love because I love time traveling movies. If you've listened to enough of the Movie Reel or the Loud Thumbs podcast with our gaming stuff, time traveling is huge for me. So if there's games or movies that have time travel in them, I want to watch them. And Back to the Future is my all-time favorite movie trilogy, hands down. It will never change. And to poke fun at that in a very a fourth wall breaking situation is so good. And I think that's the best way to tackle it. Like they did it in the new, well, not new anymore, but they did it in Endgame as well. You know, like, you tell me Back to the Future is a bunch of shit now? Like,
yeah.
they technically do break, you know, a fourth wall in a way, because they're talking about a movie that probably doesn't exist in like the Marvel universe, but exists for all of us, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they do that in this movie too, because they're trying to figure out how can Austin go back in time and visit himself in the past. If he'd been frozen in the 60s, how would he have thawed out to be able to go back and visit himself? And then they stop, and it is like, he's like, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed. And then Basil looks right at the camera and he's like, Austin, or I think he looks right at Austin. He's like, Austin, I would just say, don't worry about it and enjoy yourself. And then he looks right at the camera. He's like, and you do the same. And
yeah.
just talking to the crowd. And then Austin looks over at the camera and tells the crowd, yes. And then like they just move on, like that. We're not talking about it anymore. Like this is for fun. And I absolutely think that's the best way to tackle it when you're doing just this craziness and you don't want to have to explain it, because it would take too many theories and, you know, everything to figure out how to time traveling would work in real life and all that other garbage. So that, based off Colin Quinn's age differences and Seth Green and everything, it would have fit, but I think it would have took some of the humor away. Like, what if he played it? It wouldn't have been as good. Like, period. I think Colin Quinn's great, and I've never disliked him in anything he's done. I don't think he's like that character though. I think he would have been more of a. He always comes across as like very crabby, you know, but not in like a teenage angst kind of way, kind of in like an annoyed dad kind of way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just not the right character for.
He would have maybe done a good number 2.
Yeah, or Mustafa. He could have been either one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see him playing that off, being like annoyed with Dr. Evil as Mustafa because he won't listen to him and that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think he definitely could play a character in an Austin Powers movie. No doubt at all. But I think Seth Green was the right choice. And I feel like Scott as a character would not have been the right choice for Colin Quinn at all.
No.
So yeah, easy what if on that one. I think it would just not have been the same at all.
Nope.
And I don't think we would have seen what we'll talk about in the third movie eventually, when we bring that one next, because there's more Scott going on in the third one again. So, I mean, it's just a character that continued to grow, which was just absolutely fantastic. And I'm super, super looking forward to watching the third one and talking about it as well. So final thoughts on Austin Powers Spy Who Shagged Me. Go.
Awesome movie. Hilarious. You will not be disappointed. Go watch it.
Yeah. If you've seen the first one, you enjoyed the first one, watch the second one. Clearly sit down and you're going to laugh more at this one. If you don't, I'm going to be really surprised. And you're going to leave with so many more new like quotes and, you know, moments to poke fun at friends. And you're going to learn who Mini-Me is. And Fat Bastard is great too. So
yes,
lots more comedy. Great movie. Definitely gets a loud thumbs up from the movie reel. From me, no doubt.
From me as well.
2 thumbs up. That's a watch. That's a must watch. Go do it.
Yep.
Last but not least, before we get out of here, what have you been watching?
Love is Blind.
We did watch that, right?
I mean, that is about.
I guess
all
when
I've
we
had
do
time
these
for
together,
lately.
we need to say what have we been watching, right?
Yeah,
because
what have we
we
been
live in the
watching?
same house. We watch the same
pretty
stuff.
much watch the same stuff. We're home at the same times. Yeah, we watched Love is Blind, the second season on Netflix. That's again our one
trash
reality
garbage,
TV trash vice that we tend to watch.
We finished it. It's over now.
We did.
So.
It's over now.
The reunion episode. Yeah.
We've been watching the Ozarks.
The Ultimatum. That's another one that is
we saw
probably
that.
watch.
We'll check it out and see what it's like.
Yeah. Search that one if you guys want to see what it's about. It's essentially let's destroy everyone's relationships that have started. It's like what?
It's just like a train wreck you can't look away from. So you might as well just lean into the curve and watch it.
I can sum it up in one sentence like we did earlier. It is, if you're not going to marry me, then I'm going to date somebody else. So you're either going to let me date somebody else or you're going to marry me. The ultimatum. That is the
Man.
synopsis. I just wrote the synopsis for Netflix right
You
there.
did. There you go. We need to send that to Netflix and be like, hey.
That's right. Good
And the
luck
Ozarks.
destroying marriages.
We've been watching the Ozarks.
Yes, that is a fantastic show.
Yes.
Fantastic. Almost caught up. Like we have like
Yeah,
2 episodes to
almost.
go. And
Yeah.
I think we binged 4 seasons in like 3 weeks or something. So
Yeah.
it's been pretty fast, but that one's a quick way. If you guys have seen or know what Breaking Bad is, it is basically Netflix version of Breaking Bad, but it's about money laundering instead of meth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drugs get involved in things too. Obviously, when you're money laundering, you're obviously going to get drugs involved, I think. I
I
don't know. I
don't
don't launder
know.
money. So
Yeah, we do not.
no.
I don't know why, but for me, the Ozarks makes me more panic. Like I feel it in my chest, like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Like, and I never really got that like feeling with Breaking Bad, but I think that was more like maybe it's just because as a mom and a wife with a family, like Breaking Bad focused more kind of solely on Walter White, where the Ozarks is their entire family, like the husband, the wife, the 2 kids, and it's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I do get those same moments. I think it's for me though, is because Ozarks or Ozark seems way more grounded. Like they give you every single detail of what's going on, and like
Yeah.
all of it, 100% of it is believable.
Yeah.
There were some things about Breaking Bad that didn't seem completely believable. Like it seemed like a little bit of a stretch, like there's no way that gangster is going to let this white guy walk in his place and talk to him like
So
that kind
yeah,
of stuff. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like they're
yeah.
just going to blow his head off. But in this one, why everybody's alive, why everybody's doing this, why
Right.
that person dies. And like, all of that is legit, like, because there's always an underlying backstory or reason. And you're wondering what it is the whole time you're watching, and you never really are fully fully
You
told or fully
you think you know, and then
you
something happens and you're like,
exactly
now I don't know what's going on. Go watch
exactly
Ozark. Go watch it.
watch Ozark. It is
Yeah.
excellent. 4 and a part, well, there's like 7 episodes in season 4, and then there's 10 in every other season, and they're doing one more season, which is season, I think they're calling it 4 part 2, and then
Yes.
it's over. So they same
Which
thing
it'll
as
be out
Breaking
in
Bad.
May.
Yeah, coming up not too far from now, actually.
No.
Okay, well, we're going to get out of here for this episode. Super quick, like, if you guys would like to support the show, head over there to patreon.com and help us out. Anything you guys have to toss our way would be great. If you don't, not a big deal. We do have Apple Podcast reviews we would love to get from you guys, and star ratings on Spotify. So that helps our show grow, and it helps us, just get out there to more people and make us more visible. So we would love that, just to grow the loud crowd. And speaking of the loud crowd, head over to loudthumbs.com. You can email us. You can follow, join, watch, listen, all of it right there on the website. And we would love for you guys to do that as well, and just help join the community and grow the community with us. That's what we're doing this for. We talk movies and video games all day long. It does not get old for us. So
Nope.
wouldn't do a podcast if it got old for us. That's right. Well, thank you again to my lovely wife, Heather, for being on the show. Thanks, babe.
Yep, you're welcome.
And we will be back with the third one in the next episode. So keep watching for that. And until the next time, stay loud.